Page 104.
Ask and answer these questions.
Am I joining my hands?
Are my hands joined?
Am I separating my hands?
Are my hands separated?
Do we join two pieces of wood with nails?
Are nails used to join two pieces of wood?
Are pins used to join two pieces of cloth together?
Do we join two pieces of string with knots?
Do we join them with nails?
Do we join two pieces of string with pins?
How do we join two pieces of string?
How do we join two pieces of wood?
How do we join two pieces of cloth?
Are husband and wife joined together for life?
Are husband and wife married for life?
Is the human body covered with skin?
Is a cat's body covered with fur?
Are the walls covered with paint?
Do women cover their lips with lipstick?
Do they cover their nails with nail polish?
Do you polish your fingernails?
Are buttons used to fasten clothes?
Is a freight car of a train used to carry freight? Page 105.
The 27th lesson.
This is a car and its parts. Door, windshield, mirror, steering wheel, headlights.
Trunk and spare tire, tire, rear lights, windshield wipers, flat tire.
Is a car used for traveling?
Is a car door used to get into the car?
Is a steering wheel used to drive the car?
Is the windshield used to protect the driver from the wind?
What are the headlights used for?
Is the trunk of the car used to keep the spare tire?
Are the tires full of air?
Is a flat tire one who doesn't have any air in it?
Is a spare tire used to replace a flat tire?
Is a tubeless tire one which doesn't have an inner tube?
Are the two front tires called the rear tires?
Are the two rear tires called the front tires?
What is the extra tire in the trunk called?
Are you called Pancho?
Is Pancho a nickname?
Do you have a nickname?
What is your nickname?
What is the thing on which the driver sits called?
Seat. Are the windshield wipers used for wiping the rain off?
Are license plates used to identify the car?
Is a mirror used to see what there is in back of the driver? Page 106.
The telephone,
Dial, wire, receiver.
is a telephone used for calling up?
Is the telephone dial used for dialing a number?
Is the telephone receiver used for speaking to the party on the other side of the line and for listening to him speak?
Do you pick up the phone receiver when you want to make a call?
Do you dial the number afterwards?
Did the telephone ring a while ago? Rang.
Who called?
Who answered the phone?
Do you want to make a phone call?
Is your name in the telephone directory?
Is there a public telephone nearby?
How much must I put into the phone slot when I make a call?
Who is speaking over the phone?
Is the line busy?
Do you want to make a long-distance phone call?
Whom do you want to speak to?
Do you hang up the receiver when you finish calling?
Page 107.
A man who cannot see is called a blind person.
One who cannot hear is called a deaf person.
An individual who cannot speak is mute.
The team that wins the game is called the winner.
The team that loses is called the loser.
The player who gets the highest score is called the champion.
The time when one is a child is called childhood.
The state of being an adult is called adulthood.
The state of being a mother or a father is called fatherhood, motherhood, or parenthood.
What is a person who cannot see called?
What do you call a person who can neither speak nor hear?
The team who wins a game is called.
Is a player who loses a game called a winner?
What is the time when one is a child called?
Is a youth a young person?
Is a teenager a boy or girl between the age of 13 and 19?
Are you a teenager?
Is teen the suffix of the numbers 13 to 19?
Is useful the opposite of useless?
What does the suffix lus mean? Page 108.
Ask and answer these questions.
Is a little cat called a kitten?
Is a little dog called a puppy?
Is a little sheep called a lamb?
Is a little cow called a calf?
Is a little horse called a pony?
Is a little goat called a kid?
Are little children sometimes called kids too?
Is a little cat called a puppy?
Is a little sheep called a calf?
Are children sometimes called kittens?
Are they sometimes called puppies?
What are children sometimes called?
What are little goats called?
What are little horses called?
What are little cows called?
What are little sheep called?
What are little dogs called?
What are little cats called?
Is Francisco sometimes called Pancho?
Is Pancho his nickname?
Is Francisco's nickname Pepe?
Do you have a nickname?
What is it?
What do your friends call you?
Page 109.
The 28th lesson.
A straight pin.
A bobby pin.
A safety pin.
Is this a straight pin?
No.
Is it a bobby pin?
No.
What kind of a pin is it?
It's a safety pin. What kind of pins do women use to keep their hair well combed?
What kind of a car do you drive?
What kind of a wristwatch do you own?
What kind of meat do you like?
Beef,
Pork,
ham,
chicken,
bacon,
hamburger.
pork chops.
What kind of meat do you want to buy?
What kind of a sandwich do you want?
What kind of a pen do you write with?
Apples,
Peaches,
pears,
oranges,
banana,
ripe fruit.
green fruit.
What kind of fruit do you like?
Do you like bananas when they are green?
Do you like green fruit?
Do you like ripe fruit?
Page 110.
Joan has a headache.
Henry has a toothache.
Mr. Johnson has a stomachache.
Do you have a toothache?
Do you take aspirin when you have a headache?
What do you take when you get a headache?
When do you see the dentist?
Is a person who has pneumonia sick?
Is a person who isn't sick healthy?
Is it good to be sick or healthy?
Is a person who is very sick supposed to be taken to the hospital?
Does your head hurt when you have a headache?
What hurts when one has a stomach ache?
What do you do when your eyes hurt?
Does Henry have a headache?
No.
Does he have a stomach ache?
No.
What's the matter with Henry?
He has a toothache.
What's the matter with Joan?
What's the matter with Mr. Johnson?
What's the matter with you?
What's the matter with your car?
It ran out of gas.
Page 111.
They are traveling by ship.
They are going by train.
He goes to work in his car.
Are you going to the United States next year?
Are you going there by plane?
Are you going by ship?
How are you going?
How do you come to class?
How do you go to work?
Am I going to Europe next year?
Are you going there by ship?
Am I going by train?
How am I going to travel?
Are you sending the postcard by plane?
Yes, I am sending it via airmail.
How do you send your mail?
Do you usually send packages by ordinary mail?
Do you send a letter via airmail when you want it to get there quickly?
Where is the nearest post office?
Where can I buy some postage stamps?
What do you need in order to write and send a letter by mail?
Postage stamp. Address. Envelope. A letter. Page 112.
Ask and answer these questions.
What kind of cigarettes do you smoke?
What kind of soft drinks do you like?
Is a belt worn around the waist?
Is a wristwatch strap worn around the wrist?
Is it worn around the right wrist?
Is a ring worn around the thumb?
Is a nurse's cap worn by a nurse?
Is a hunter's cap worn by a hunter?
Is a policeman cap worn by a hunter?
Is a bottle cap used to cover a bottle?
What kind of a cap is used to cover a bottle?
What kind of a cap is used by a nurse?
What kind of a cap is used by a hunter?
What kind of a cap do you wear?
Are gloves worn on the hands?
Do you like to use gloves when it is cold?
Are dresses and skirts worn by women and girls?
Are trousers and shirts used by men and boys?
Are ties worn by men around the neck?
Do women like to wear tight pants these days?
Is Valentine's Day commemorated on February the 14th?
Do sweethearts send Valentine cards to each other on Valentine's Day?
Do sweethearts love each other?
Do you have a sweetheart, or are you already married?
Are birds covered with feathers?
Is a lawn covered with grass?
Page 113.
The 29th lesson.
Can you touch the ceiling if you stand on a chair?
Yes, I can.
Could you touch the ceiling if you stood on a chair?
Yes, I could touch the ceiling if I stood on a chair. Is stood the past tense of the verb to stand?
Is could the conditional of can?
Could you touch the ceiling if you stood on a chair?
Could you buy a car if you had enough money?
Could you go to the USA if you spoke English?
Could you learn English quicker if you studied harder?
Could you lend me $10?
Could I borrow your book?
Could I invite you to a cup of coffee?
Where could I find a good place to eat?
Who could bring the refreshments tomorrow?
What could you do if you owned a yacht?
When could you go to the movies with me?
How could you travel if you went to Europe?
Could you do better if you tried?
Could you tell me where I can find a nice hotel?
Why couldn't you go out last night?
Where could I find a nice hotel?
Right up the street, 2 blocks from here.